this personal review, I'm just gonna tell you why Star Wars The Last Jedi is my personal favorite movie of all time. Hello everyone, I hope you're having a cinematastic day. I'm Josh, this is Simpy Cinema, and before we get into my thoughts, I'd love to hear yours down in the comments below. Be sure to be respectful of others' opinions. These are all just our own opinions. The journey to Rise of Skywalker has nearly reached its end, and if you missed any of my past reviews on all of the Star Wars movies, be sure to check them out right up there in the corner. And without further ado, let's begin. Star Wars The Last Jedi picks up right after the Star Wars The Force Awakens, and after the destruction of the Star Killer base. The fleet of the First Order is after the Resistance, trying to destroy their base, trying to destroy their planet, and as the Resistance gets away just in time, the First Order fleet is still after them, and as the Resistance is now running out of fuel, as they're trying to get away, we get the adventures of Rey, Poe, and Finn as they go on their different side quests. Rey is trying to convince Luke to come back to them and help the Resistance. The Resistance is struggling as they're trying to survive with the remaining students. Starting with the positive, Star Wars The Last Jedi captures true essence of cinema as we get strong character dynamics, great characters intermixed within the whole story, exhilarating action, strong emotions, and just all the way through we get so much fun moments. And even at the end and throughout the film, we get strong plot twists that really I didn't expect, get me tense in almost every little scene. And the visuals in this is really stunning and beautiful, the way they capture everything that goes on. And as the director is Rian Johnson, there's no shortage of what he can do with the filming and the way he brings the story to life in his writing. Star Wars The Force Awakens left us off on a cliffhanger where we didn't know what Luke was going to do, how he was going to join them. Rian Johnson just brings a huge twist to where he's just gonna stay on the island because there's almost no reason why Luke would decide to come back, because he strictly prohibited himself to going back, because that's the whole reason why he went into hiding in the first place. The Resistance didn't necessarily need him because he was just one member against 1,000. And though they get an amazing parallel of him joking about that now, and then later on at the end of the film, he transforms himself into the spirit, into being in that moment. It's just really exhilarating the way we get this character, and just a big surprise that we get from him. Yeah, it all makes sense in my own sense that he isn't always necessarily gonna be the perfect Jedi, even though he transformed into that in episode 6. There's been 30 years of time that his character could easily change, and the truth about how he encountered Ben Solo and how he thought he had turned to the dark side already, and the way that all triggered Ben Solo to turn into Kylo Ren, turn to the dark side, it is just a really big surprise, and it just works really well. And the truth with all the dreams that come into light, getting Luke's perspectives with a little vague adaptation, getting Kylo Ren's adaptation from his own perspectives, and then getting the full truth from Luke as we perceive it from the third vision, is probably most likely the real truth. And just the way that's presented is really powerful and really strong, and it almost replicates how us as viewers of movies may be viewing movies and how we have our own perspectives. The whole truth is not always there, and we just all have our own opinions on how we view it and what we see from the movie. And that's exactly what's happening here with Kylo Ren and how he's viewing how Luke encountered him in that moment. And seeing the transformation of every character, having to discover who they really are. Rey was trying to figure out who she is, wanting to become a Jedi, but also wanting to find out who her parents are. And the plot we get with who her parents were is sort of unresolved even at the end, though she seems to think that her parents are still nobodies. Her parents were drunkards that sold her off for drunk money. It's just all works out because we don't know if Kylo Ren was telling the truth, if Rey knows the real truth, and we'll still get that resolved in the next movie, hopefully. And though it could be still the truth, it's still a satisfying answer, as Rey doesn't have to be someone super special, doesn't have to have these strong force-willed parents to be her Jedi herself, because the Force can work in its own way, in its own path, and we can't always fully understand the Force and how it works. Just as Han Solo said, that's not how the Force works, because we can't always understand it. And the way it works with Rey, and how Rey discovers her path, discovering that she really wants to be a Jedi, wants to be on the light side, wants to turn Ben Solo back to light. It just all works with the way her development of character flows out. And also, as we get Poe, we didn't get so much of his cockiness in the first film because he was cut out within the first, like, the middle of the movie. So we don't get to necessarily how he interacts with leadership, how he changes his mind, and how cocky he really is. We get to see a lot more of that, and it doesn't feel out of place because we didn't see as much of him in the first film. And his cockiness to leadership works out as we get to see him as a leader and commander in his own way, but he's disobeying the general. But it still works out as we go throughout his journey, as he becomes a person that really understands what it means to follow the true general of the leader, but also in becoming a true leader in himself. Seeing the imperfections and the characters and the character dynamics in their relationships to one another just makes it feel that much more believable that they don't always succeed in all of their doings, and especially the whole resistance. They go down from a huge number to quite a small number of less than 400 people, and that's what makes this film very powerful, very dark in its own way. But at the end, there's hope in the light of what it's leading to. And also, going back to character specifics with Ben, the transformation to him still not wanting to be with the Resistance, because in the last film we get him in the desperate moments having to help him in certain occurrences just to help Rey and just to help his own doing. In the end, now he's becoming a true Resistance warrior as he goes throughout his travels with his own side quests, discovering what side he truly wants to be on, and seeing DJ as a character where he doesn't have a side. It just creates this middle ground that he could go to. But in the end, he discovers he really wants to help the Resistance, really wants to help them out. And though at the end he tries to make a sacrifice that is self-sacrificial and goes toward the actual cause of the whole Resistance, it in the end wouldn't have mattered as much, as that was just one tiny impact, and it might not even work as the Death Star cannon was fully charged in its own way. And therefore, the way Rose acts toward him and the dynamics that we get between their relationship really works out and is really engaging. The way all of that character dynamics works within that teamwork of Rose as well. Seeing the path that Kylo Ren takes is very similar to Anakin's in its own way, but it's really powerful the way you're seeing him trying to constantly grow to the dark side rather than sort of trying to stay with the Jedi. And he doesn't have necessarily anything that he's going after besides power and just seeking to be in control and be in his own selfish power because of what he feels he was betrayed against from Luke. And even as he kills Snoke in the end, it's just a mind-boggling plot twist that I can really buy into. And though Snoke was really into his mind and could sense the power that and the thoughts that Kylo Ren was doing, he overall doesn't necessarily have the sense of power to be seeing both visions at once. And that's where he's not necessarily an overpowered, and though we lost some of the potential of what we could truly see from Snoke on the big screen, it's really powerful, just the poetic way he speaks, the way his character was presented within this film. And it was really fun to get him as he lasted. But overall, I still find him to be a powerful character. Just the mystery behind what he could have brought into the table, but still with the mystery behind how he wasn't able to see what Kylo Ren was truly thinking of, who his true enemy was, and that was Snoke. And though he's trying to get Rey to the dark side, and though he thought he saw Rey turning to the dark side, what it leads to is really powerful. The way we see the battle between the Praetorian Guards and them two, and then we see the lightsaber split in half because the fight and struggle against trying to kill the other, once they find out they're not turning to each other's sides. Seeing the amount of sacrifice or attempt to sacrifice themselves within this film, it still really impacts me and makes me really tense to this day. It's very emotional. The music score of John Williams that is integrated throughout the film, and the way the visuals work within that is also works to become very powerful and really strike me as I'm watching this film, as really just leads me to tears as the way the deaths are presented. Even with all the subplots that lead this to become the longest duration Star Wars movie to date, it's still really compelling, and the way it's all meshed together and formatted just works really well. I don't feel like any of them are too distracting, and we get enough of a certain scene that makes me really understand what's going on, how it all works out within the movie, and it doesn't feel unnecessary. Even as we get into Canto Bight, it feels like it's an interesting side of Star Wars we haven't seen before, and though some find it unnecessary, I find it more compelling and interesting than anything. And just the emotions that go within each part of the culture aspects of Star Wars, as we get all of these different planets, all of these different ideas and political ideas, and just the way it interfaces everything together is just really powerful and compelling and interesting as it's all meshed together into one movie. Just seeing the overall theme of that the good guys can't always win every battle, there's still always hope within the next as they go and seek the new resistance and try and gather new members. And though their first call didn't work out, the sacrifice that Luke made that was very powerful and visually compelling just worked so well that sent out the message and spread the story that is going to bring more resistance members into the next film. And that's what brings the whole all-out battle. And although we get this huge first order that is still out there, it leaves the mystery of what's going to happen next in the next film, and it still works really well on its own, and it doesn't feel like it's gonna be detracted from, even if the next film just so happens to be not as good for whatever reason, because it still works on its own ways. It still has all its twists and turns, all its character dynamics, visuals, excitement, and action. And that's what makes Star Wars The Last Jedi my favorite film of all time. Therefore, as I rate only one movie 10 out of 10, there can't be more than one movie over 10 out of 10. I have to rate Star Wars The Last Jedi that one and only 10 out of 10. And that's truly Simpy Cinema. But those are just my personal thoughts on this film. Like I said, I'm not trying to make you to enjoy this film much more. This is just my personal thoughts. You have your own thoughts. We can all have our own perspectives of how we perceive this film as it is, how it works within the Star Wars universe, how it works into the sequel trilogy of Star Wars. I can't wait for Star Wars The Rise of Skywalker coming this Thursday, and I'd love to hear what you think of that down in comments below, as well as your thoughts on Star Wars The Last Jedi. Let me know down in comments below, and make sure to like this video if you enjoyed it. Be sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Be sure to check out some of these other videos and the rest of the Star Wars reviews on the right hand side of the screen, and I'll be back for more movie reviews, rankings, and more.